A group of 4 friends walks into a bar. At the counter stands a woman with striking blonde hair. Everyone notices her immediately. Now, here's the question. What is the best strategy for the group? At first glance, it seems obvious. They should all compete for the blonde's attention. After all, she's clearly the most attractive option in the room. But there's a fundamental problem with this approach. If all 4 friends pursue her simultaneously, they'll sabotage each other's chances. She might even reject them out of annoyance. And even worse, if someone loses out, they'll have little chance with her friends afterward, because nobody likes being treated as a backup plan. So let's break down the math. If all 4 chase the blonde, each has only a 1 in 4 chance of success. That means 3 out of 4 walk away with nothing. But if they take a different approach, an unspoken agreement to leave the blonde, and instead focus on her 4 friends, suddenly, each friend has someone to talk to, and the odds of success for the group as a whole skyrocket. Instead of competing head-to-head for the same prize, they spread out and maximize their chances. By ignoring the obvious option, the group ends up much better off. This illustrates the core idea of a Nash equilibrium, a situation where no individual can improve their outcome by changing strategy alone. Everyone's best move depends on what everyone else is doing. That same logic doesn't just decide who gets a date. October 14th, 1962. American U-2 spy planes returned from Cuba with some controversial photographs. Soviet nuclear missiles. Positioned just 150 kilometers from Florida, the Soviet R-12 SS-4 missiles carried 1 to 2 megaton warheads, enough to devastate most US cities. President Kennedy faced an impossible choice: launch a preemptive strike and risk nuclear war, or do nothing and live under constant threat. Meanwhile, the Premier of the Soviet Union faced the exact same dilemma from the other side. Both leaders commanded arsenals capable of ending civilization. This was a game of chicken. 2 cars racing toward each other at full speed. Swerve first and you lose face. Don't swerve and you both crash. Except here, the crash meant hundreds of millions of deaths. Kennedy chose a middle path, a naval quarantine around Cuba. Soviet ships sailed directly toward the American line. For 13 agonizing days, the world held its breath. One nervous commander, one misunderstood signal, or one technical malfunction could have ended it all. Finally, Khrushchev blinked. The Soviets agreed to remove their missiles from Cuba. In return, the US secretly agreed to remove its Jupiter missiles from Turkey. In 2000, researchers at the University of Zurich ran a deceptively simple experiment. They recruited around 120 volunteers, divided them into groups of 4, and gave each person 20 tokens. The game was repeated for 10 rounds. The rules were straightforward. Each round, players could keep their tokens or contribute any amount to a common pot. Whatever went into the pot was multiplied by 1.6 and then divided equally among the 4 players. Let's do the math. If all 4 players contribute their 20 tokens, the pot becomes 80, which grows to 128 after multiplication. Split 4 ways, that's 32 each. Everyone leaves 60% richer than they started. But there's a catch. If 3 players put in all 20 tokens, and 1 decides to hold back, the communal pot is 60, which grows to 96. Divided equally, that's 24 for everyone. The free rider walks away with 20 tokens they never risked, plus their 24 tokens share, a total of 44. And that's the trap. In the first few rounds, people typically contributed generously. Trust runs high. Cooperation flourishes. But then, someone notices they could have earned more by holding back. In the next rounds, others notice and follow suit. By the final round, contributions plunge to very low levels. This setup is the classic public goods game, a clean demonstration of the free rider problem. The free rider is the person who enjoys the benefits without paying the costs. They get a free ride on everyone else's contributions. The moment other players realize someone is free riding, or worse, that they're being taken advantage of, trust evaporates. Public parks are a perfect real-world example. Everyone enjoys a clean, green space. But for each individual, the effort of holding onto a wrapper until they find a bin feels trivial compared to the convenience of dropping it. One person's litter doesn't ruin the park, and that's the trap. Because once others notice trash on the ground, they start thinking the same way. Why should I bother if no one else does? The result is a chain reaction. Piece by piece, the park fills with garbage. What began as a place everyone valued slowly becomes unpleasant for everyone. Not because people wanted it that way, but because each person acted in their own short-term interest. They reran the public goods game with one major modification. After each round, players could assign punishment points to anyone who contributed less than the group. Here's how it worked. Each punishment point reduced the target's payoff by 10%. 2 points reduced it by 20%. 3 by 30%. Up to 10 points could be given, meaning a freerider's entire payoff could be wiped out. But punishment wasn't free. Assigning points came at a personal cost. 1 point cost the punisher 1 token, 2 points cost 2, 3 points cost 4, and so on, rising steeply up to 10 points costing 30. Take our earlier example. 3 players contribute 20 tokens each, and 1 free rides. Without punishment, the free rider walks away with 44 tokens, while each cooperator gets only 24. Now, add punishment. If each cooperator assigns just 2 points, that's 6 point total, equaling a 60% cut. The free rider's payoff plunges from 44 down to 18. Suddenly, freeloading is not a winning strategy anymore. And the results were dramatic. In the no punishment version, cooperation steadily collapsed to near zero. But with punishment, contributions shot up and stayed high, often around 80 to 90% of the endowment. And in some groups, cooperation reached 100% by the final rounds. Even nature plays by the same rules. Vampire bats often return from a night of hunting without finding food, and without blood, they risk starving. They survive because bats that fed share with those that didn't. But if a bat never returns the favor, the others remember. And when its turn comes to go hungry, no one helps. Punishment keeps the system fair, and fairness keeps the colony alive. From the bar to the missile crisis to the survival of the bat colony, the same pattern repeats. The smartest strategy is not about crushing opponents or chasing quick wins. You can see the same conflict today, from US-China trade wars to sanctions over Ukraine, from water disputes in Asia to the global race for semiconductors. Game theory makes the lesson clear. Survival in the modern world does not come from winning once. It comes from making sure the game never ends.